stations in San Francisco.
Keith Maddox, Senior Planner, San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency.
Bike sharing is a membership-based system of borrowing bikes. You can buy an annual membership in San Francisco for $88. You would be sent a smart card key fob. You insert it in the slot. It goes green, and so then you lift up gently on the rear of the bicycle and pull back. And now the timer has started. I have 30 minutes of riding time on this bicycle at no additional charge. Every additional 30-minute increment costs you $7. If you were a tourist, you pay $9 for as many 30-minute trips all day long for that same $9 membership.
It's so convenient, and the bikes are kind of built for shorter trips.
Ben has signed up for the scheme and uses the service when he leaves his bike home.
I have a meeting with my office, put it at a docking station near the client, go to a meeting, and there's another bike share bike out there when I'm done. I've noticed when people bike, that's one less person that's on a crowded bus. Downside, we need more bikes and more stations, I think.
Started last year, the scheme has 700 bikes and 70 docking stations throughout San Francisco.
It's funded primarily through grants. If we could get a system size of about 2,000 bikes, then it would become self-sustaining.
Across the Atlantic, London boasts a far bigger bike share scheme that began in 2010. 10,000 bicycles, 700 docking stations, 600,000 journeys a day.
The second largest of all the cycling schemes in Europe. The biggest success for us in terms of the cycle hire scheme is that half of the people who use the scheme were not cycling in London before the introduction. We've grown about 3 times the number of cyclists that we have today compared to 2001.
A study last year found 350,000 bicycles on the road between 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
So this is one of the hire bikes. Usually I find when I'm using one of these, I'm doing it in the start of the day, put it in that slot.
Alex Ingram is an avid cyclist.
It's £2 for 24 hours access.
After that, users must pay an extra £1 for every 30 minutes to an hour beyond the time limit.
And then an hour to 2 hours, that's £4, and then it gets more and more expensive. It has opened up a number of trips for me that I wouldn't otherwise have done, where, for example, it felt too dangerous to leave a bike, or because of the risk of theft, or because it was a one-way journey because I'm going to meet my friends to have a drink, and I don't want to cycle back in that condition.
Bike share is part of London's ambitious program to make the city bike-friendly.
We've got nearly £1 billion to spend over the next 10 years in cycling improvements in London. A big part of that money is being spent on infrastructure.
Infrastructure from roads, painted bike lanes, or physical barriers, to cycling superhighways. 4 are now in operation, to be increased to 12 by 2015.
The cycle superhighways tend to be really for commuters that come from sort of inner and outer London into the centre of London, and they deliver people along these routes to where they want to work.
Plus, women-friendly lanes.
Women particularly don't necessarily want to be on cycle routes on very busy roads. They want routes on quieter streets in London, and so we're building a programme called the Quiet Ways programme, which is a network of sort of 20 to 30 routes all over London. But there are a lot of issues still with safety.
Anne Kenrick is a bike commuter.
For me, perfect city.
Yeah.
Big without cars
Of course.
and just cycle.
I know. This is a cycle cafe. It's a fantastic combination of a cycle maintenance shop where you can have your tyre fixed, you can have your brakes redone, and at the same time have a beer, meet your friends. So I've been cycling in London for over 50 years now. I cycled to school as a teenager, partly just to keep fit,
And then I went to university at Oxford, where everyone cycles. My day job is I'm Secretary General of an organisation called the Franco-British Council. It's a good way to make the transition from home, where I have 3 kids and a busy life, to work. So often I can work out problems in my head on my way to work, although you also have to concentrate on the cars as well. Why does London want to be bike friendly? London is incredibly congested. The traffic is appalling. Big health issues here, not just children, but adults and older people. We can get more people actively travelling on a bike or on foot. That's got to help our health bills.
We're able to make the case for this investment in terms of improving Londoners' health by riding rather than necessarily the air quality improvements. I don't think there's been a particular correlation between the cycling and the air quality in London at the moment, no.
But bike accidents remain high. Nearly 500 were seriously injured last year. 14 were killed, including a 20-year-old French student.
Who was on one of the hire bikes, who was killed very sadly. She was over here studying. And we did a big protest ride. And someone came up to me after I spoke at the end of the ride and said, "Have you spoken to your sister?" And I said, "No." And they said, "You should speak to her." So I rang her, and it turned out that my 15-year-old nephew, a lorry had come up behind him and then crossed over him, literally crushing him under the lorry. He spent the whole summer in hospital and then on crutches, and luckily he's back on his bicycle now. Junctions are the key problem, especially with lorries turning left. You can get accidents that way. Lorries make up about 5% of the traffic in London, but they're involved in 50% of the accident.
Cycling safety is at its second lowest rate since records began. We still have too many accidents. We're completely redesigning junctions in London to make them suitable for cyclists.
Such as providing a designated space where bikers can go ahead of cars.
And we're going to find some of that resistance from motorists because we're talking about within the Mini Hollands programme. This will be about £30 million of investment into one town centre, and it will be redesigning that town centre around bicycles. And we've got a big job to do to work to persuade the people in those boroughs the advantages of this.
One-way streets are accident-prone as well.
It probably doesn't look that bad, it probably looks quite leafy green, but the basic problem we have is that a lot of streets like this have an enormous amount of car parking on it. And what that means is you get a lot of people who are coming into this location to try and stop and park and, for their vehicle. That's not a problem in itself. The difficulty is because we're also expecting this particular street to be a major through cycle route. Sometimes they're coming through this way against the flow. There's no indication really that this is a cycle route. There's not even a cycle marked on the pavement anywhere.
All the boroughs own the roads. One thing that we've done at Transport for London is publish the London Cycling Design Standards, so that we've got a consistency across the whole of London, so that everybody now will understand exactly how we want cycling to be planned.
London is going bike-friendly, but is there a will and a way for Hong Kong to do so?
Hong Kong, like London, is very, very busy. It's a lot of high-rise development. If it's a conflict in Hong Kong between private car usage and cycling, then as an authority they should really, really think to invest in cycling, because it's just completely unsustainable to have more people in cars. If you've got a good bus network, it really helps. And the most efficient ways of transporting is buses and bicycles.
You try something, you see if it works. If it doesn't, you try something else. So I would say just do it gradually. Listen to what the Hong Kong people have to say. I don't think you'd regret it. Well, thank you for watching our show. It will be the air.